Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I am here with another weekly wrap-up. I am going to be going over all the books that I read this week, as always. I have, I think, 9 books to talk about, and I really want to get this done quickly because I'm about to start my vacation for the week. We are having, America, our Thanksgiving this upcoming week, so I took those few days off, and me and my mom are actually going to be going to a winery in Temecula for a couple nights, which is really nice. So I want to get this done so I can get on the road. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into my weekly reads. Okay guys, so I'm just going to quickly get this rolling. Before I do, if you're new to my channel, I do these weekly wrap-ups. I have book recs, I have reading vlogs that I do, all of that kind of stuff. So hope you hit that subscribe button, give me a like, comment on this video. But yeah, so let's just get this started because I am ready to go get my wine and my drinking on today. Okay, so I actually did finish 2 books last night, but it was pretty late last night, so I decided not to add them this week because I did already have 9 books to talk about, and I'll just get those next week for you. But anyways, here we go. I'm already rambling. The first book that I had was an ALC. This was 7 Days a Duchess by Emmi West. This one, I'm trying to request any ALC I can that is a historical romance because I want to support any historical romance authors. I really did like, I think the previous one, it might have been the previous 2 that I read by this author. This one, maybe it was just 1. Anyways, whatever. This one didn't hit as well for me, but I still rated it pretty nicely because I did enjoy the audiobook, and it wasn't awful. It just had a couple little things that weren't great for me. But this is a romance between Morgan Beauchamp, he is the Duke of Comfort, and Marion. And Marion actually had a run-in when they were younger. She, I think was trespassing on his land, and it didn't go great. I think she got, pushed into the river or something, or the pond. I can't remember, but it didn't go great. And now she actually is a grown woman. Her father is kind of a little crazy. He's got them into some debts. And so she is actually showing up to ask the Duke for more time on the money, whatever they can do, how he can work with them. And actually the Duke had, I think he was working for the military or the crown, whatever. And he was actually deserted on an island, I think, for 6 months, which that was one of the things that I kind of wanted more of. We barely even dived into what happened to him in his past. I thought that would have been interesting, but we barely touched on it. But he comes back after that to kind of see that his father's will had some crazy stipulations in it where he has to get married immediately because it's I can't remember, it was the date was coming up, but because he was marooned for 6 months, now the date is here, so he has to get married immediately and have an heir in the next year, or everything would go to his aunt. So he's having none of that. So when Marion shows up to kind of ask for help because of her father's debts, he goes, oh, okay, well, I can take care of your father's debts, you can marry me. So basically we have a marriage of convenience, but he doesn't even remember Marion. She definitely remembers how he treated her, and she does not want to be married to him. And there's a lot of conjecture about this marriage and if it will work and all this stuff. So they even have a bet going on, to people to place bets on if the marriage will last. So she decides to go put a bet in that it wouldn't last the 7 days or whatever. And then she plans to have him, the marriage fall apart within that amount of time so that she can just get that money to take care of her family. It's a very flimsy plot. But it's okay. It's okay. I was okay with that. I just didn't love the way the hero really treated her. And, you know, I just kind of wanted more. I need a little bit more of a swoony hero when I'm reading my historical romance. He's very grumpy and, you know, kind of entitled. But, you know, as they have to make an heir. He does wait a few days because she keeps kind of like putting him off. So he's not like a total jerk, but you know, as they finally do that, they start spending more time together. He wants to show everybody that they are a great couple. And so they start to fall for each other. But she's got this secret about this bet kind of hanging over them. So there's that. There's like miscommunications and those type of things that happen in this. So, I mean, it didn't blow me away, but it was still cute. I did enjoy like some aspects of it. So this did actually, one of the things that I really liked about it, it did have duet narration, which you don't usually get in historical. So this had duet narration by Alex Wyndham and Justine Eyre, and the audiobook was really well done. So I ended up giving it 4 stars and 2 chilies. Okay, so then I had another ALC that was like a really quick little novella. This was Her Filthy Night by Adele Knight. This is the 3rd book in Her Sweet Seduction. These are super quick. You can listen to them in like one sitting. This one is, you can definitely read any of these as a standalone. There's like really no setup for any of it. It kicks off pretty quickly. Sophie and Noah kind of are supposedly enemies. Really, she kind of like liked him immediately, but then she came home to him like hooking up with her roommate. So she was like very hurt and like didn't like him after that. And now she's going to stay at like kind of like a cabin for the winter break with her friends. And they kind of can't get there because it's like the snow's bad or whatever. So she kind of gets snowed in, and it ends up being Noah's house, and he's there. And she walks in on him on the shower, and he's, you know, pleasuring himself, and she kind of watches, and he likes it. And then he helps her get off too later. So this was just a really spicy, not really, but cute, spicy kind of thing, because actually Noah has really been obsessed with her. And maybe it's not an accident that he left the door open for the shower, not an accident that he's there when she was. And, you know, he's been into her. And that thing with the roommate was kind of like a misunderstanding, him drunken, didn't want to be with her type of thing. So it was cute. This one had duet narration by Teddy Hamilton and Savannah Peachwood, who are always fantastic. So I had a good time with it. It was 4 stars and 2.5 chilies. Okay, so then I had the book that was part of the Rake Appreciation Society, which was Of Lands High and Low by Martha Keyes. This is kind of a historical romance. It felt more historical fiction a little bit. It's very heavy subject matter, and there is a really beautiful romance in it, but it's a little depressing. But I did appreciate it. I thought it was interesting. I had never read this author before, and when I was reading the reviews, they did say this isn't this author's like usual style. This is a little bit darker and, you know, dealing with some tough subject matter. And I think it was actually released during like COVID, which is not a good time to read this book, I don't think, because this is dealing with Scotland. It's 1794, and there's a smallpox outbreak in this town. This is between, I think, is it Graham? Is how you say his name. He is a doctor, and Isla, and she is kind of an outcast in this town, but she's doing her best to like fit in. There's a lot of prejudices against like the Highlanders, and this, you know, they like look down on Highlanders, their different religions, all of that kind of stuff. And her father was supposedly a Highlander that just kind of like left her. Her uncle has been taking care of her. So she's just doing her best to kind of fit in. And, you know, Graham is coming back to kind of he's been left his uncle's house, and he just wants to sell it and get out of there. They don't really treat him very kindly, but there is a breakout of smallpox happening. And so she's actually goes to him for help because they're very superstitious and don't really want to do certain things medically, like for religious reasons, and it was something that wasn't done really a lot at that time, is this treatment that he was doing. So she kind of goes to him and they kind of take on this task together, and it's just very depressing. But there is a sweet romance. There's no spice in this. But I did find it very interesting, the part of history, like the kind of prejudices against, you know, the Highlanders and kind of how they viewed each other. And so I thought it was interesting. It just didn't totally blow me away. And I thought the romance needed more to like be what I'm into in historical romance. So I do think it's a very interesting and beautiful story though. So, but I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, because I just wanted a little bit more of the romance, and it didn't totally hook me, if that makes sense. So, that was an interesting one. I would definitely read that author again though. Okay, so then I read Truly's Biker. I think I've had this on my TBR forever. I read the first book in the Royal Bastards MC Reno, like way back, by Misty Walker. And then I thought it was okay. And I was really intrigued by, I think it's Rock. I call him Rock because it's ROCH is his, you know, MC name, his like, but I don't know if it's Roach. I'm not calling him that. I think it's Rock. But anyways, his real name's Will. But I was really intrigued by his character. He is a veteran. Like, he really has a lot of PTSD and trauma from the war and how he was treated and like what happened to him over there. He was actually like a prisoner of war, and he had to watch his best friend be beheaded. He went after him to help, you know, save him, and he basically got in trouble with the military for doing that, and so he got harassed by the military. So he like really doesn't, he's kind of like selectively mute. He talks but very rarely, and just not a man of many words. But after that, he actually went home and wanted to give this letter from his friend who was killed over there to his wife, and he meets Truly that way because Truly was his best friend over in war. It was his daughter, and I think he met her when she was like 9-10, and you know, he builds a relationship with the mother and this little girl, and he tries to really keep them separate from the MC. He doesn't want them involved at all. And now it's years later, and Truly is grown. She's in college, and she's kind of getting herself into trouble where the mother has to keep like calling him to kind of get her out of these situations. And really, she's putting herself in those situations to get his attention because she has been in love with him for a while. Now this is a pretty big age gap, and again, he knew her when she was a little kid, so like he doesn't look at her like that. And so she's just trying to get his attention. But she kind of befriends us, like she's trying to get in there, and she actually meets the heroine from the first book who's like trying to help her get Rock's attention. And Rock is really cute because her mom is a veterinarian, and so he had adopted like this little teeny chihuahua that he'll like put in the back of like his hoodie. He carries it everywhere with him, and he rescues all of these, you know, dogs that, you know, were abused, and so he has all these dogs that he takes care of. So he's a very like, I loved his character in this, but Truly was very smitten with him, and it takes a while for him to kind of like break down his barriers and realize, you know, he is attracted to her and wants to go there with her because it could, you know, was his best friend's daughter. He knew her from a young age, and what would that do to his relationship with her mother? And she actually like kind of gets herself in some dangerous situations and befriends somebody that might have ties to their main enemy from like the previous book. So yeah. So what I'll say is I really enjoyed most of this book, but Truly was just literally too stupid to live to like an over-the-top extent that lowered this a star for me. Honestly, like she was so clueless and naive, and I could give her a break for that. But then when she realizes she was being used and like what's really going on, and that she put like the club in danger with this whole situation. Does she do the right thing? She literally goes and contacts that person again to meet privately to talk about it. And I'm like, could you be more stupid? And it leads to a whole thing. And she was very dumb, very, very too stupid to live. So that got a little bit on my nerves. But I did like this, I think, more than the first one. I just wish Truly was, not so dumb. So I ended up giving that one 4 stars and 3 chilies. Okay, so then I had an ALC of Wylder Ranch by Lulu Moore. Now, this is the second book in the Valentine Nook Chronicles. Now, if you remember, if you go way back to last year, Christmas time, I read Once Upon a Christmas. I listened to that as an ALC too, and it was a quick little novella audiobook. It was so cute. It was like my favorite holiday romance from last year. And this is actually the continuation of that romance. So I was really excited when I saw this come up because it's like a fling. So basically, Alexander is Lord Burlington. He's this British, sexy, rich guy. He actually comes to Aspen for like something I can't remember. And he ends up having a fling with Haven Wylder. And they really hit it off. He hates Christmas because I think it was his dad that died his dad died during Christmas, and he had a lot of guilt with that. And so she's helping bring like some Christmas joy to him. There's some really cute Christmas stuff, and they have this amazing fling, and he is just like smitten with her. So, but he lives in London, over the seas. He lives in London. Anyways, he lives in the UK, and she's in Aspen, and her whole family's business is there and everything. So they kind of were like left it up in the air, like maybe one day. So that was the end of it. So now we get to get their HEA. So in this, we have Haven and Alex. After that fling, he really reached out to her, was trying to like pursue things, but she kind of like ghosted him. And so he was devastated. But now she showed up 10 months later to his little small town in England. It's this really cute town. And she has a baby. So this is a secret baby, but I didn't mind the way it was handled. Now, she did kind of ghost him because she was scared and she didn't really think they could make things work. And she honestly didn't find out about the pregnancy till way later. She thought she was sick. And so, that does happen. I always kind of roll my eyes at it, but it has been known to happen to women. So she is really struggling, though, because she's on her own. Her parents had died way back. She was struggling to keep their business afloat. And so she finally has like done that and kind of stepped away. And so now she's coming to introduce him to his baby and kind of see if he wants to be a part of their lives or what's going to happen. Now, when she shows up, Alex was so smitten over her and she ghosted him that when he sees her, he is kind of like, oh my God, like she's here. But then he sees the baby and he's just so hurt. Like, you never even called me back. Like, you never reached out to me. So he does not react the best way when he finds out that he's a father. And then the fact that he wasn't around for any of that. But he sits with it and he comes back and really steps up and really wants to be there for her, wants her to kind of like stay with him longer so that they could figure out what they're going to do, how they're going to be able to co-parent, what they're going to do when they live in different countries, kind of finding out how they're going to go. And so, he really wants her to stay. She wants to be with him. They start to really fall for each other while she's staying with him in his house, and he's being a dad and just really stepping up and loving being a dad. And it's just really cute. So like they really have to figure out like what they're going to do, where they're going to live, how's that going to work. But it was really cute. And I think the thing that I loved about this was how relatable Haven's story was, because not every woman has an easy time being a mom. She's on her own. She's having issues with breastfeeding. She's just like so tired. The baby's like really fussy and she's been doing it all on her own. So she's just like exhausted and just strung out. And so to have, Alexander come in and step in and help, and his family, like his brothers are all involved, and eventually his mom gets in there, she gets this like found family. So it was really, really cute. I loved this. It had dual narration by Shane East, who is amazing. I love Shane East, top 3 male narrators of all time, and CJ Bloom. So definitely recommend the audio. It's super cute. I would recommend you read Once Upon a Christmas. It's perfect time of year to pick that up again, and then you could head into this. It is kind of taking place around the holidays again, since it's like, almost a year later, and they're spending a couple months together. So very cute. I gave it 5 stars and 2.5 chilies. Okay, so I'm not going to go too deep into this. Maybe. I don't know how long I'll talk. Who knows? But I do have a vlog coming out. I think I'm going to be having it come out maybe later probably on Saturday, I'm thinking, with the holidays happening. I'll probably get it posted hopefully by Saturday. But I did read Duke of Midnight by Elizabeth Hoyt. I have been reading the Maiden Lane series and vlogging them. So I am just absolutely in love with this series, and I get the hype. This one is the 3rd Ghost of St. Giles, because we do find out there's multiple. We got this beautiful step back here, and this one is the most like Batman retelling for sure, because our hero is let me see, Duke of Wakefield, Maximus, and he is the 3rd Ghost of St. Giles. He is a duke, and he's been doing this for a long time, but he does it for a different reason than our previous Ghost of St. Giles, because his parents were killed in the Ghost of St. Giles when he was a child, and so he kind of does it for revenge and going after the criminals instead of about like protecting the people. And he, is kind of needs to find a wife and all of that. So he actually happens to be talking to Artemis's cousin. We've met Artemis in the previous book. She is the lady's companion to her cousin, who's like a total vapid, like conceited character. But Artemis was what made this book for me. She is one of my favorite heroines in this, and she is my favorite heroine in this series. She's so strong, very ballsy, because in the beginning of this, her cousin does a dare kind of stupid thing to go out to St. Giles, and they get attacked, and the ghost saves them. And then later, she has to actually go to kind of like his estate, where they're like, he's wooing her, cousin, where they have those garden parties and like people stay there for historical romances. And so she's staying out there, and she kind of quickly puts together that he's actually the Ghost of St. Giles. And her twin brother is in Bedlam. He is accused of killing 3 of his friends, and they think he's crazy. And so he's been really abused and beaten down and stuck in Bedlam. And so she decides to blackmail the Duke that she knows he's the Ghost of St. Giles and that he needs to help her get her brother out. And that kind of kicks things off with them, and they have amazing chemistry. They really want to, pursue things with each other, but he's like, I'm never going to marry you. So that's a troubling situation. She says she doesn't care, but yeah. So this one was really great. A lot of Batman vibes, very spicy, great chemistry, and the heroine is amazing in this. So I really loved it. I gave this one 5 stars and 3 chilies, and the vlog will be coming soon. Okay, so then I had another ALC. I had Stick With Me by Nikki Callan. This is the first book in the St. Hockey series. This is a friends to lovers, it's always been you, a pining hero type of situation. This is my first book by this author. I did enjoy it. The heroine just got a little frustrating in a couple parts, but this hero is just so swoony. He is definitely golden retriever, sweetheart. So in this, we have Ryan and Hannah, and Ryan and Hannah have been friends for a really long time, I think since they were like in college, and he basically got friend zoned because one of his teammates kind of made a move on her before he did, because he was kind of like scared to make a move, and, you know, broke the bro code and ended up getting her. And then they end up moving away when he goes to go play, I think in Dallas and I can't remember where. And she basically like kind of puts her life on hold and moves where her boyfriend goes to play hockey, and kind of like put her dreams on hold to be with him. And they are actually engaged to be married. And in the beginning of this, she finds out through an article he did that he was like claiming to be a bachelor, and that they had ended their relationship and all of this without even discussing it with her. So she finds out that way that he doesn't really want to be together and kind of wants a break. And she's just devastated. She's like, I've wasted years on this. I didn't do what I wanted to do with my life. And so she decides to take this time to kind of do what she wants. So she's going to move back to Chicago, where, you know, she went to college and where Ryan is playing hockey. And she wants to open like her own like animal save. Like, I can't even think right now, you guys. Anyways, or animal rescue program. Jesus. So she's going to do that, and she ends up moving in with Ryan. And then one day, like, she gets like, her ex is like already with another chick and rubbing it in public, and so she kind of wants to have a guy to make him jealous, and so he offers up to be that guy. So then that starts the fake dating situation. They're roommates and all of that, and then eventually they decide to kind of like mess around too. So I did enjoy this. I did think the heroine was just so like clueless when it came to how in love with her he was. Because she actually liked him a lot too, but thought he was never interested in her. So yeah, so then we have like a lot of drama with her ex, because he like is gonna want to get her back. And I think they were trying to do like, I don't know if he's gonna have a book. I don't know how you can redeem this guy, because he was a total asshole, but he was like trying to kind of like have a redemption at the end of this. But anyways, it took me a little bit longer than I would have liked to kind of get through this. I just couldn't fully get into it, but I did really enjoy the hero. I think it had really good side characters, and I could see where the series is going. So I'm definitely interested in continuing. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars and 2.5 chilies. It was dual narrated by Lee Samuels and June Devereaux. So I did have a decent time with that one. Okay, so then I wanted a little quickie. I had this on my TBR. I read Ensnared by the Werewolf by Lillian Lark. I think this is actually my first Lillian Lark. I've been meaning to read her forever. She does have this, like a lot of monster books. So this is the Monstrous Matches number 2.5. It's a quick novella. It is between a werewolf and a witch. This werewolf believes he is cursed. He kind of has to put a glamour on himself, because he is kind of between transforming and like stuck in transition between a werewolf and a man. So he's like all beastly and stuff. So he's gone to multiple witches to try and figure out a way to break this curse. And so he goes to Belinda, and she immediately recognizes that this is like her mate. And so she's trying to help him, but like he won't like commit to anything till he's like fixed. But she honestly could give 2 shits if he's ever fixed. She's into him no matter what. So it was fun. We got some primal play, nodding, fated mates. It was a quick little novella. It was really cute. And I had a good time with it. So this one was 4 stars and 2.5 chilies. Okay, so, all right, I'm doing pretty good timing this week, okay? I think I'm doing pretty good. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. But the last book that I have to talk about is Mountain Grump by S.J. Tilley. This is the 3rd book in the Mountain Men series. I actually haven't gotten any of the previous books in this. So I actually got the ALC from Must Love Audio, which was great. And you can definitely jump in with this one without reading the other ones, although I am interested in, because I really did like this kind of community that this set up here. This is between Ethan and Tilda. Her name's Matilda, but she goes by Tilda. And Matilda has just moved to the Colorado mountains where this is located. She was like a city girl, came from the city, but her uncle, I don't know if he's her uncle or great uncle, but he passed away and he left his home out there to her in his will. And like $20,000 or something. So she shows up with her purple hair and bright sunny personality, and she was like putting like ribbons on like this gate that actually is part of like the park. And we have Ethan, our grumpy park ranger, and so they kind of have a few run-ins that don't go great at first, but they're pretty attracted to each other. And things kind of go a little bit further once she actually gets notified by her uncle's lawyer that she needs to fly back to Vegas, where her family's at, for the reading of like the will, like more that he's doing. And he actually had kind of set up Ethan to fly her because he can pilot, and so he flies her in like a small private plane out there. And then in the will, it actually has stipulation that she could get the rest of his inheritance. He basically said, F you to the rest of the family. I'm giving everything to Tilda. But she could only get it if she gets married. And she has to get married like basically in a day. And so who's right out there but Ethan? So she basically kind of springs it on him, and he totally goes with it. So they end up getting married. And so this is kind of like a marriage of convenience, but they are really into each other. What made this really interesting though was they actually have a bad flight situation go on, and he has to land the plane in the wilderness. He happens to have a cabin nearby. I don't know how that worked, but they end up staying there till they can get rescued. So that kind of even gave them more one-on-one time. That was very spicy good times. And so we have this marriage of convenience, but Ethan is hiding something because he has a letter from the uncle that had kind of asked him to look out for her, but also maybe like step up to marry her, and he would get some money too. So that's going to lead to some, complications in the third act. But I really had a good time with this. I do think it was incredibly long, but it feels long because she has so many chapters. There's like over 180 chapters in this. And that was the thing that kind of didn't flow right for me, because I listened to the audiobook and it was a great audiobook. It had duet narration by Connor Craze and Aaron Mallon. They did fantastic. Connor Craze is always great as the grumpy, swoony kind of guy. He's fantastic. But they'll literally have like chapters where it's like a sentence, then another chapter that's barely anything, then another chapter. And so when you're listening to that on audiobook, it fucks up the whole pacing. And it really kind of bugged me. So that was took a little bit of the good experience out of it. Probably if you're reading it physically, you wouldn't be as bugged by that. But I've only listened to one audiobook of hers before. I read all the Alliance ones for her Mafia series physically. So I don't think I ever really dealt with that before until I listened to this. And I was like, oh, we don't need that many chapters. You don't need a chapter with him saying one sentence and then going into her chapter. It doesn't need to be that way. Anyways, so I did enjoy it though. So I did give this 4 stars and 3 chilies. Okay, guys, so that was pretty good for me. We are not talking on and on like usual. So I am so excited to get my vacation started. I hope you guys in America that are celebrating Thanksgiving have a fantastic Thanksgiving. And those of you hopefully getting time off work around the holidays and stuff like that. So love you guys. I appreciate you guys supporting my channel and tuning into me every week for these wrap ups. So thank you so much. And I will see you guys on the next one.